This story opens in the burning city of Rifenheim, the capital of the Antares Empire, where a monster is howling and attacking mankind. Creatures often attack the human world, but in this narrative, heroes and military invaded the empire to exterminate the creatures who lived there. The military's commander-in-chief was monitoring the combat and reported that the wicked demon summon had beaten their 2 million strong troops. His subordinate stated that the wide-range magic strike killed 200,000 of their soldiers and wounded 300,000 more. The commander-in-chief then declared that while the demon king had caused disaster to their nation and painted the earth with evil, he was certain that the head of the monsters, known as the wicked demon king, would perish at the hands of the genuine heroes. Heroes gathered in the Hall of the Abyss, located in the heart of Garrick, the huge demonic castle, to combat the so-called wicked demon king. One of the heroes, Alex von Hallen, boldly stated that the wicked demon king could no longer commit bad actions now that they had killed him and returned him to the dark world. The horrible demon king they had summoned was seated on his throne directly in front of them. He was known as the wicked demon king Rifenhardt Walled Antares, who also serves as the story's primary protagonist. He was the emperor of the Antares Empire. The sword Saint Cyrus warned him that they would eliminate him and destroy the history of this terrible dominion. That is pretty disturbing. I spent a lot of effort into building this enterprise. Why do you refer to it as a dark empire when it is actually named Antares? The sun rises here, too. Rifenhardt responded, and the martial king, Tesslon, activated his flame while fiercely stating, "You're raising demons here. When you are gone, the corrupt beasts and demonic nature will vanish." Rifenhardt dislikes Tesslon's description of the monster's demonic essence, as he merely taught them human techniques. Those monsters had been tormented their entire lives, so he taught them how to retaliate, and he couldn't accept Tesslon's claim that they're corrupt. For him, those monsters were just doing what people do. At this point, he asked the heroes if they had all defeated his 4 celestial monarchs. Cyrus then said yes, proudly stating that Rifenhardt's dirty orcs do not match his sword. Rifenhardt thinks that Cyrus was alluding to Taft, his valiant giant orc warrior. Even though orcs appear barbarous, he sees them as harmless hunter-gatherers who would never betray their own race. They also defend the vulnerable and battle the powerful, therefore he doesn't appreciate how these heroes treat those creatures like wild monsters despite the fact that they don't wash frequently. The 4 celestial kings, right? The nasty horrible troll has just paid for their wickedness. Tesslon spoke with crossed arms, and the mention of the troll led Rifenhardt to believe that Tesslon was speaking to Jaradathelka. He thought trolls were scary looking, but Tesslon's words were too harsh for him, knowing that trolls were simply nature lovers who were spiritual. Saintess Ellen then said that the wicked dwarfs who worshipped the deity of darkness had also been brought to justice. Rifenhardt was quite unhappy since he knew it was Michelin. He also dislikes Ellen's description of Alpath, the dwarf deity, as the god of darkness. For him, these heroes were extremely arrogant in believing that all gods other than the Slayer and the 12 gods were simply bad entities. Jade Archlight, the Mage of Light, declared that they had banished the corrupt dark elf to the beyond and that he was no match for his spell. Rifenhardt was enraged and yelled that these heroes were begging to be slain. "You are now revealing your real colors. The dark elf was a monster that had turned to the evil side. We don't feel sorry for such creatures." Tesslon said, "Dark elf. Yeah, her complexion may have been darker than yours, but that's because you people hacked down the trees and forced her to flee to the barren land. You are going to treat a pure-blooded high elf like a dark elf just because she is tanned." Rifenhardt responded. The heroes then activate their powers, and Alex declares that he would use his sword to revenge the fallen humans. Rifenhardt trembled in rage, knowing that these individuals would not listen to him. He also questioned them about who would avenge the unearthly dead. Alex then yelled, claiming that Rifenhardt was horrible. He also concludes that the monsters would not have succumbed to the dark side and enjoyed their fated regular lives if Rifenhardt had not wielded evil power. Rifenhardt possessed his magical strength, and the heroes charged at him. To these heroes, alien races are nothing more than evil creatures seeking to live as more than slaves. And they believe that murdering monsters is justified. "If this is the case, I shall become the demon king you want me to be," Rifenhardt yelled fiercely. Despite his tremendous powers, the heroes charged at him, intending to kill him. Rifenhardt began to cry this time, remembering the deceased extraterrestrial creatures that had been slaughtered by mankind. Rifenhardt was an average great wizard, yet being a great mage isn't that common. Humans do not see alien specialties as equal and intellectual entities. Elves are viewed as attractive slaves who happen to have lengthy lives. Dwarves are slaves with strong mining skills. Orcs are skilled at mundane tasks. Trolls are used as components in healing remedies. They are viewed as slaves with no ego or will. Rifenhardt was astounded to discover these creatures' lost civilization and how deep it stretched. He learned about the creatures, including their customs. He learned spiritual magic, elves and sorcery from the trolls. By merging them, he achieved 10-circle magic for the first time in history. He continued to communicate with them, changing his perspective on life. He could no longer stand by and see them being abused as slaves, so he began to rescue them. As his realm expanded, it became more difficult to mislead the humans, and they began sending knights to raid them. The humans proceeded to plunder, destroy, and steal their territories, while Rifenhardt and the creatures moved on. When they were assaulted, all they did was fight back, yet they ended up gaining additional territory and expanding their town. It grew bigger and bigger until it became the Antares Empire. He ended up building the Antares Empire, but not because he despised mankind. He just thought that alien beings were not inferior to humans. They did not retaliate against humanity, and this is the result. Even although all of Antares' residents agreed that it was a wonderful place to live, the humans said that it was only due to the Demon King's malevolent enchantment. Rifenhardt understands why people could assume his army was made up of ogres and goblins, which aren't the most beautiful creatures on the planet. But killing his people for that reason is unthinkable to him. He declared that he had a duty to safeguard his empire, and that if a law enabled murder, he would repeal it and enact a new one. He used magic to assault Alex, and she vomited blood before flying away and falling on the ground. Tesslon was anxious about his partner. Rifenhardt further noted that these people were simply referred to as heroes since they are competent with both swords and magic. However, he says these so-called heroes have not reached mastery in either. To put it simply, Alex is well-rounded but not very powerful. He also finds that heroes only make it to the end of a story. In truth, it's preferable to excavate one thoroughly. He slaughtered all of the heroes, leaving just Martial King Tesslon, a man noted for his formidable body. The others were easy to beat, but Tesslon was different since he only dug one well. Tesslon lunged at Rifenhardt with his tremendous flame, attempting to hit him. Rifenhardt luckily ducked, and Tesslon ended up smacking the ground, causing it to shatter. He charges towards Rifenhardt once more, treading on the splintered ground and attempting to strike. Regardless, he ends up striking the wall. Rifenhardt rushed away from him, waiting for the proper opportunity. While sprinting, he noticed Tesslon's great leap towards him. Rifenhardt swiftly cast magic to stop Tesslon's punch, as Tesslon screamed that the victory was theirs. He then hit Rifenhardt with full force, forcing him to fall to the ground and spit blood. Rifenhardt coughed but continued to claim that he stopped Tesslon's punch with his magic. Tesslon went on to say that he had expected it from the demon commander. Rifenhardt was in pain and suspected that his spine had been shattered, leading him to believe that he may die at this pace. One thing on his mind is to kill Tesslon, but he feels he has little chance of prevailing against Tesslon right now. He stood as the blazing Tesslon moved slowly towards him, threatening Rifenhardt with judgment. Rifenhardt said, "Yes, you won, good for you," while clutching his sore head. Tesslon expects that the others will soon be free of their demonic constraints. Rifenhardt grinds his teeth in rage. He intends to quit up, but he cannot. Tesslon's statement that those other monsters would be free of their demonic shackles implied that living as slaves was their natural faith, something Rifenhardt could not accept. It enraged him even more, and he resolved to fight till the end. He summoned the Eye of Time and Space, a magical artifact he discovered in an ancient ruin with a very powerful enchantment that even he, a 10-circle member, has yet to understand. Tesslon then questioned him fiercely about what he was attempting to do. The Time and Space Regression Spell reverses time and disrupts God's providence. Rifenhardt remarked, he began possessing the power of the artifact, despite the fact that he was unsure whether it would work. At the very least, he would not lose anything as a result. He challenged Tesslon to prevent him from activating it, and Tesslon charged at him with clenched fists. Rifenhardt successfully ignites the artifact, believing himself that he would not die. Tesslon grinds his teeth like Rifenhardt. Tesslon hit the artifact Rifenhardt was holding, and a silhouette materialized where the two were battling. Two people battled and then vanished, leaving the artifact active. Meanwhile, birds chirped outside a wooden home. The drapes inside the home were swaying. The sound, warmth, and pleasant sensation experienced by a young guy reciting within. He awoke and instantly stood up, startled that he was still alive. It appeared that he was Rifenhardt. He can't believe he was able to cast the magic despite the fact that he couldn't understand half of it. "I know I'm a genius, but I didn't believe it would work." He said, he was gazing about, wondering where he was, and came to the conclusion that he had jumped the timeline, but he couldn't recall being in a place like this in his previous existence. This time, his appearance resembles that of Tesslon, a young kid. There are many questions on his mind, including his current age. He gets out of bed and says something that most young guys will weep over because of his physique, but when he looks in the mirror, he is perplexed since it is not the figure he anticipated. What's with all the calluses? This body is completely scarred and covered in muscles. It's just horrible. A wizard just has to be adept at magic. What's with this pointless six-pack? He said, he understands that commenting on himself was strange, but he recalls that his physique swept numerous ladies off their feet when he was younger, and that as he grew older, he became cooler and made several elves weep. Now he was perplexed by his appearance and face. What he expected to see in the mirror was his statuesque face. Also, in his view, his physique now resembles a statue. He attempts to figure out what occurred, and concludes that his time and space regression spell may have failed, which is why he's in some random guy's body. His current visage appears familiar to him, but he never thinks about Tesslon. He was wondering that he might not be in the past, but rather in the present, and had switched with this body's soul. He defined himself as a man with strong brows, determined eyes, and a firm lips. He is concerned that if his body grows, he may get facial hair. Fortunately, he remembered his previous fight with Tesslon, and Tesslon is a man with facial hair and a look similar to his current physique. While he was contemplating, he heard someone outside say Tesslon's name. Before I go, I'd like to ask you guys to like, share, and subscribe. And please, let me know in the comments how you enjoyed this episode. Your feedback means a lot to me.